guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be my November wrap-up. It's going to be just a little bit shorter than usual because if you are new to my channel, you may not know that I am actually reading all of the Goodreads Choice semi-finalists for the horror category. So I am reading the top 20 horror books that were published this year and kind of rating them all and picking my winner and seeing how that matches up to Goodreads winner. So I did read, I believe, 4 books for that challenge this month, and I am not going to be including it in my wrap-up, but I did read more than what I have here to talk about today. But that's going to be enough of an intro for this video, and I'm going to get on to all of the non-Goodreads challenge related books that I read this month. So I definitely know that nonfiction November is a thing, and I wasn't planning on participating in it because I had a lot of books that I had to read that weren't nonfiction for that Goodreads challenge that I mentioned earlier, and also books that I just wanted to get to before the end of the year. However, of the 7 books that I read, 3 of them were nonfiction. So that's a pretty good ratio. Normally I try and read at least 1 nonfiction book a month, and I got in 3 this month, so I kind of participated in that. And of those 7 books that I did end up reading, 6 of them were written by women and 1 was written by man. 3 of the books were audiobooks. 1 of the books was a physical copy of the book, and 3 of the books I read on Hoopla, which is a free online app connected to libraries for graphic novels and comics. So I'm gonna get into the very first book that I read this month, and that was Sex Object by Jessica Valenti. But this is an audiobook that is read by the author. This is the first book that I've actually read by Jessica Valenti, and it definitely is an interesting one because it is more of a autobiography of her life and going through some traumas and an exploration of her sexuality. I did give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if you need to read more of her work before this one to really get the full nuance and appreciation of the story, but I did really enjoy. Enjoy is a weird word for this one because it does deal with some very hard topics, but I really appreciated the sort of discussions that were brought up about being a woman in today's society and being sexualized from a very young age and kind of navigating that. This book is very limited in its discussions of those topics because it is more of an autobiography, so it's not looking to represent all of sexuality and womanhood and different factors that could affect like the sexuality of just girls from a very young age. So I don't think that detracts too much from this book because it is supposed to be more of an autobiography. It's not supposed to be like an all-encompassing book, but just keep that in mind. I kind of picked up this book because I was listening to a podcast where she was a guest speaker in, and I wanted to hear more of her work, and this was the one that didn't have a wait list at my library. So I went ahead and listened to this one, and I enjoyed the reading experience and getting to understand and listen to some of her perspectives on talking about sexuality of girls, sexuality of women, and, you know, the different ways that culture can affect that and culture expects women to act. The next book that I read was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I got this book because Libby sometimes has like lucky picks, and those are books that have like a year-long wait and you can get them for 7 days, I believe, and like skip the line and listen to them. So I saw this one. I know a ton of people have read this one, and this is one that like not just my reader friends but my non-reader friends have read, and most people seem to really enjoy it. Some people really didn't, some people really did. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Apparently, Mark Manson is like a relationship coach. I enjoyed the second half of the book better than the first half. This is one I kind of just put on while I was cleaning, so it was good for that. You didn't really have to like focus. You could do other tasks while listening to this audiobook. It's a self-help book. I agree with some of it. I don't agree with all of it. I definitely think that I probably would have rated this book higher had he just kind of stuck to his relationship tips, if that makes sense. I do think that the second half of the book focused more on interpersonal relationships, especially romantic relationships, and I did enjoy seeing those perspectives more than like the self-confidence ones. I will say I did find this interesting. It was not narrated by him, which I think is a first. I feel like most of these self-help gurus kind of narrate their own audiobooks, and I found the narrator a little bit annoying, but it wasn't actually the author of this book, so I thought that was interesting. Maybe just pick this up like at the library and read it physically. I don't think you need to read the audiobook, but I mean, it is what it is. It's a standard self-help book. There's nothing really groundbreaking, but it didn't really irk me in the same way that a lot of other self-help books have in the past. The next book that I read, and this is also a nonfiction audiobook that I listened to, was Save the Cat by Jessica Brody, and this is a novel writing book. I did participate in NaNoWriMo this year. I participated in NaNoWriMo most years. I did not win this year, which was a little bit of a bummer. I did not hit the 50,000 word mark, but I did find this book very invaluable to me. I did give it a 5 out of 5 stars. I will be purchasing a physical copy because I don't really recommend you listen to this on audiobook. It's very much, it has diagrams to help you kind of story plan your stories, and has templates of basically all of the stories and movies and books in the world can be narrowed down to 10 different plot schematics, and I found it very, very helpful for me in planning out my own novel that I am currently writing. I found this book very, very helpful in terms of wanting to sit down and actually write and feel like I can actually accomplish writing a book. It wasn't inspiring in the way that like other writing books have gotten me inspired. Like Stephen King's On Writing is my #1 go-to. It makes me feel inspired. It makes me feel like I can actually become a writer someday and actually write a novel. This was inspirational on like a different sort of level. This one very much sat you down and said, this is the structure of a novel. This is what you want to look at. This is what you want to kind of touch upon to make a story progress from beginning to end. And that breakdown really helped me a lot in my novel. Again, I didn't finish NaNoWriMo. I have in the past. I just didn't have time this month, and I really tried to. But I do have, I think, the most fleshed out plot and the most fleshed out outline and the most viable story that I've ever written. And I do attribute that to reading this book at the beginning of this month. So I am looking forward to what I took from this book will actually help me becoming a novelist in the future. Now, the next 3 books I'm going to talk about, I'm going to lump them all together because they are 3 volumes of a comic book series, and I stumbled upon this by accident. I was actually looking up a illustrator that I saw her work on, I think, Twitter or something, and I really enjoyed the way she portrayed her female characters. I feel like a lot of female connoisseurs of comic books and graphic novels can kind of relate. Sometimes they can get a little male gazy. Found some art that I really appreciated from this person. I was looking on Hoopla to kind of see what things she had done. Her name is Mirka Andolfo, and she is Italian, I believe. I know most of her work actually is published in a different language before it's published to English, so it was kind of hard actually finding the books on Goodreads to like hit them as read and rate them on Goodreads, so that was a new challenge. But I found this totally original. I was looking for her superhero content because she does like DC Bombshells, and I think she did Miss Marvel and a bunch of like superhero comics, which I am mostly interested in, but I am branching out, and I found that she actually created her own series, and that is called Unnatural. This is a little weird to describe. So I ended up really loving this. This is actually a completed series. It was only 3 volumes. I really enjoyed it. I gave each single volume 4 out of 5 stars. The illustration, she does the illustration and the writing, and it's just wonderful. So this is about a world. I'm just gonna read the synopsis on Goodreads because it's a lot to break down and explain without sounding totally weird. I mean, it's a bizarre concept, but it works really well. Leslie J. Blair is a normal pig girl. She loves sushi, and she's trapped in a job that she hates. In her world, which is full of anthropomorphic creatures, with a totalitarian government that interferes in the personal lives of its citizens, up to the point of allowing only relationships between individuals of the same race, the transgressors are punished. They are accused of being unnatural. Leslie dreams of something different for herself. These dreams are becoming dangerous, especially because they feature a mysterious wolf. When she wakes up, she thinks she's being watched, and as if that were not enough, on the day of her 25th birthday, Leslie receives an email she would never have wanted to receive. And this is just the beginning. So this is fantasy, erotica, romantic suspense series, is what it's listed as on here, and I think that's definitely true. There are some portions that are not safe for work, and they didn't need to be in the story. And they're definitely my least favorite parts. I don't really enjoy cartoon nudity. There are very brief panels of that in this book. I will say they do like have to do with the plot. It's not just thrown in there to have some naked pig girls in there. It is dealing very heavily with a society where you can only marry into your breed. You can't even have relations with anyone in like your species. So I mean, that's very important to the plot of kind of fighting against this totalitarian government and loving who you want to love. Yeah, it's definitely like a mix between like a thriller and a fantasy, and it does have those elements, but it's not very romance heavy. Go into it with an open mind. It definitely starts out like, I was shocked because the very first panel of the very first volume is the main character, her sex dream. It's really weird. It's really wonderful though. The artwork is really cool, and I'm definitely going to be looking for more from this author and illustrator. She's actually coming out with a new series next year, I believe I saw. So I'll definitely be checking that out. That one looks like it has very much Penny Dreadful vibes, so I'm excited about that one. Those are fun. They're free on Hoopla. They're quick, easy reads. They're very entertaining. They deal with like darker topics without being too dark. Recommend trying it out if you're looking for something new and weird. Now, the last book I have to talk about was one of the books that I wanted to finish before the end of the year, so doing good. That's good for me. I actually accomplished that. And this one that I actually got from our booktuber recommendation, Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, got this when it first came out this year, raved about it, absolutely loved it, so I had to pick it up, and I have to agree, this is a 5 out of 5 stars easily for me, and that is Girls on the Verge by Sharon Briggs Walker. This is a story of a girl named Camille and her two best friends going on a road trip to get an abortion for Camille. This is a very short book. It should have been shorter because honestly, all the story should be in this day and age is Camille gets pregnant. She is 17 years old. She doesn't want to be pregnant and she decides to get an abortion, goes to get an abortion, should be a chapter long. However, she lives in Texas, which has archaic rules against abortion and women's rights. So she has to go on a road trip with her two best friends to try and obtain an abortion. And this was touching and sweet and sad and crushed me, and easily just the easiest 5 stars I think I've given this year. I really would have appreciated reading something like this when I was in high school. I think it is a very essential read and a very important read for girls of that age. I am 24, so I mean, I am kind of taken out of the situation that Camille finds herself in, but I definitely think that even if you've never been in a similar situation to Camille, I think as a high schooler, you can definitely relate with a lot of the topics that are broached upon about just agency of your own body and kind of starting to feel like you are growing up in a world where you're just kind of seen as a sexual body. There's a lot discussed in here, and a lot that's discussed really well in a very small book. Shit that women have to deal with on an everyday basis, like catcalling and, you know, dealing with advances from men and reproductive rights, even just like getting birth control and things like that. I definitely didn't enjoy reading this book. It was very hard to read. There was at least 3 moments when I had to set this book down and just take a moment to breathe, and it hits you hard, and I highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. Again, like I said before, it was the easiest book that I've given 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't recommend it enough. It is very short. It's very accessible. The writing style is very accessibly written. It's easy to get through, and it talks about tough topics in an easily digestible way. So there is still like a whole month left of 2019 if you're looking for some short books to kind of complete a Goodreads reading challenge, say, or just looking for something quick to pick up. Recommend this one. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 stars, and definitely one of my favorite books of the year. Okay, and that is going to be it for my November wrap up. I am trying to make videos every single day in the month of December for Vlogmas. However, they're not all going to be vlogs because my life is not that entertaining. It's going to be a mixture of vlogs and then also just like sit down videos like this one, but I am trying to put up a video every single day. We'll say until Christmas. So if you want to see more content from me, more of my face, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, all of that good stuff, and I will catch you guys tomorrow in another video. Bye!